Good evening, dear friends, and a very warm welcome to each and every one of you, wherever you're listening from tonight. Maybe tucked safely under the blankets, curled up in your favorite quiet corner of the house, or perhaps lying somewhere peaceful while the world slowly quiets down outside. I'm so happy you're here with me. Take a slow, gentle breath in. Let your shoulders soften and drop. Maybe pull the blanket or duvet up just a little higher and allow the day to quietly drift away. The FIFA World Cup final in New York, the most watched sporting event on earth. A glittering VIP suite, Art Deco elegance, champagne flowing, floodlights blazing. Then, FIFA President Victor Langdon collapses over his crystal glass, foam at his lips, dead from poison. Police call it a heart attack from excitement. But Hercule Poirot, he's sitting in the shadows as guest of honor, sees something else entirely. A perfectly staged murder. A cast of 5 elite suspects, each wearing a flawless mask. The grieving widow, the loyal assistant, the sharp journalist, the trusted doctor, the bitter rival. One of them is playing the deadliest role of all, the murderer. In this theater of wealth, fame, and betrayal, someone forgot their lines, and Poirot is directing the final act. The spotlight is about to fall. The curtain rises. Chapter 1. The stage is set. The Grand FIFA Stadium in New York stood as the perfect stage for tragedy. Its sleek modern lines hid echoes of Art Deco elegance. Polished chrome railings, geometric patterns in the glass, VIP suites glowing under floodlights. During the 2026 World Cup final, FIFA President Victor Langdon was discovered dead in his private box. He slumped over a crystal glass of champagne, foam at his lips, hinting at poison. The halftime celebrations roared on below, but here silence fell like a dropped curtain. Police muttered of heart attack from excitement, but Hercule Poirot, guest of honor, saw only performance. Someone in this theater of wealth and glory played the role of innocent, the role of murderer. The curtain rises. Sound effect. Roaring crowd fading to a single champagne cork pop. The air in the suite carried expensive perfume, Chanel blending with worth, mixed with faint Cuban cigar smoke drifting from the lounges. Polished mahogany walls gleamed under the crystal chandelier, which tinkled softly like distant piano notes. Footsteps echoed on the parquet floor as officials hurried in. The fire in the hearth crackled warmly, to battling the chill night air, slipping through open terrace doors. Victor Langdon's body rested in the heated leather chair, silk tie still knotted perfectly. Gold watch catching the light. A crisp linen napkin lay stained beside him, champagne residue tasting dry and bitter. Poirot tilted his egg-shaped head, green eyes sharp. Mon ami, this is no natural end. The stage is set for drama most foul. He smoothed an imaginary wrinkle from his sleeve and watched the suspects enter like actors taking marks. Eleanor Langdon arrived first, silk evening gown rustling, face masked in shock. She dabbed dry eyes with a soft kid glove, hothouse roses on her corsage, releasing sweet scent. Sandalwood cologne mixed with strong continental coffee steaming nearby. The grandfather clock chimed the hour. Madame plays the grieving widow, Poirot murmured. But is the grief real or rehearsed? Marcus Hale, the ambitious assistant, followed in rough tweed jacket, hands steady as he adjusted glasses. Rain pattered on windows, velvet curtains swaying. He spoke calmly of Langdon's schedule. This one performs loyalty, Poirot noted. Yet loyalty does not avoid the director's gaze. Sophia Reyes, the sharp journalist, entered next. Crisp linen blouse, leather notebook smooth in her hand. Champagne flutes bubbled coldly on the table, wood smoke curling from the fire. She claimed a final interview with Langdon. Mademoiselle plays the observer, Poirot said. But observers sometimes pull strings from shadows. Dr. Julian Voss, team physician, came in white coat crisp, bitter medicine scent escaping his bag. The door closed softly behind him. He insisted natural causes. And the doctor performs expertise, Poirot observed. Expertise can mask darker motives. Raoul Benoit, former star turned rival, strode in last. Expensive cologne overpowering, velvet smoking jacket luxurious. Piano music drifted distantly from the lounge, his crystal glass icy in hand. He expressed loud outrage. This actor plays the shocked competitor, Poirot whispered. Watch carefully. Is it truth or theatre? Poirot gathered them on velvet chairs, air heavy with Lily's cloying perfume. Rain pounded harder outside. Mesdames et messieurs, Hercule Poirot directs this investigation. Each of you holds a role in this theatre of crime. Eleanor wept softly, fire crackling in rhythm. Marcus sorted papers methodically. Sophia jotted notes keenly. Voss checked pulses pointlessly. Raoul paced, outrage theatrical. Then the cast assembles, Poirot said. But someone will forget their lines. The police inspector suggested bad champagne by accident. Poirot dismissed it with a small, expressive gesture. Mais non, poison was deliberate, the performance calculated. He studied the champagne glass. Smooth crystal cold, residue bitter. Terrace doors ajar. Let chill air mingle with room warmth. The killer acted during halftime roar, when noise masked everything. A pearl earring lay near the body, smooth texture, faint cigar smoke clinging. A prop left on stage, Poirot murmured. Whose performance does it betray? Tension rose. Eleanor glanced suspiciously at Raoul. Marcus defended his boss loyally. The mask slips. Did you catch it? Poirot asked you, the listener. This actor plays grief. But observe the eyes. Where is the moisture? Poirot arranged objects on the table symmetrically. Order and method reveal truth. The psychology, it is everything. Floodlights dimmed outside as suspects dispersed uneasily, performances under scrutiny. Poirot touched his magnificent moustache thoughtfully. The stage was set. The actors had taken their places. Let the drama begin. Chapter 2. Enter the players. The VIP suite at FIFA Stadium had become an interrogation stage, its Art Deco mirrors reflecting tense faces under soft golden light, like spotlights on uneasy performers. The World Cup final continued outside, crowd roars muffled by thick velvet curtains, but inside the real drama unfolded. Victor Langdon's death was confirmed as arsenic poisoning, subtle, tasteless, deadly. The elegant box, with its polished mahogany and crystal decanters, now smelled faintly of furniture wax and wilting lilies. Authorities spoke of professional rivals, but Hercule Poirot recognized psychological masks. Someone was performing innocence while hiding murder. The curtain rises. Sound effect. Distant crowd, raw building. Then a single door closing softly. Poirot arranged the suspects one by one for formal interviews, each encounter a carefully directed scene. The air held the rich scent of strong continental coffee and lingering cigar smoke. The parquet floor creaked under careful footsteps, the grandfather clock chiming softly like a stage manager's cue. Warmth from the crackling fire fought the chill seeping through terrace doors, left slightly ajar. We begin the scenes, Poirot announced, so each actor will now perform their assigned role. Eleanor Langdon sat first, silk evening gown smooth against the leather chair, hands clasped too tightly. She described her marriage as perfect, eyes never quite meeting Poirot's. The chandelier above tinkled gently with every slight movement. Madame plays the devoted wife, Poirot murmured, yet devotion does not tremble so. She spoke of Victor's many enemies in the football world, voice steady like lines rehearsed in front of a mirror. Rain began tapping rhythmically against the windows. Poirot noticed her handkerchief remained perfectly dry. You watch with Poirot, no? See how this one's hands betray her. Marcus Hale entered next, rough tweed jacket contrasting the opulent room, faint sandalwood cologne clinging to him. He detailed Langdon's schedule with mechanical precision, using a crisp linen napkin to dab at his brow. The distant piano music from the lounge filtered through velvet curtains. This assistant performs efficiency, Poirot observed, but efficiency sometimes conceals deep resentment. Hale insisted on absolute loyalty. Poirot pressed gently on timing. Too perfect, too rehearsed. Truth stumbles, lies flow smooth. Sophia Reyes followed, leather notebook open on her lap, texture smooth under nervous fingers. She sipped hot coffee, its bitter richness lingering on her tongue. The terrace chill made her shiver once. The journalist plays the impartial truth seeker, Poirot said quietly. But seekers occasionally hide what they discover. She revealed she had been investigating match-fixing rumors linked to Langdon. Wood smoke curled lazily from the hearth. Poirot's green eyes gleamed. Ask yourself, why does she avoid looking directly at the body's chair? Dr. Julian Voss took his place, white coat crisp and starched, the faint, bitter scent of medicine escaping his open medical bag. He explained Langdon's minor heart condition and recent stress, hands steady, too steady. Silk rustled as he shifted. The doctor performs professional concern, Poirot noted, but concern does not lie so smoothly about access to poisons. Voss admitted he sometimes prescribed sedatives. The champagne flutes on the side table still held cold bubbles. Poirot tilted his egg-shaped head. Consider the psychology. What role does this man need to play? Raoul Benoit came last. Velvet smoking jacket, luxurious, overpowering cologne, cutting through the room's scents. He paced slowly, parquet creaking under each step, crystal glass icy in his hand. He spoke with theatrical outrage about Langdon stealing credit for his past achievements. The fire crackled louder, as if responding. The rival performs righteous indignation, Poirot whispered. Indignation often masks burning ambition. Contradictions appeared like missed cues in a bad rehearsal. Eleanor claimed she left the box at the start of halftime to freshen up. Marcus said she remained inside, speaking to her husband. Sophia mentioned seeing Dr. Voss near the private entrance. Voss denied it flatly. Raoul insisted he never re-entered the suite after an earlier argument. The players have all entered the stage, Poirot reflected. But who performed truth and who performed lies? Poirot made an expressive gesture with his small, precise hands. Mais oui. The alibis overlap most inconsistently, or the script contains errors. A folded letter discovered in Langdon's inside pocket surfaced during the interviews, crisp paper carrying a trace of expensive perfume. It hinted at a private betrayal. A prop carelessly left in the drama, Poirot said. Whose mask does it threaten to crack? The suspects were allowed brief interactions under supervision. Eleanor sipped dry champagne, lips barely touching the rim. Marcus rearranged files with nervous energy. Sophia scribbled furiously. Voss checked his watch repeatedly. Raoul lit a thin cigar, smoke curling upward. The tension thickened like wood smoke. The tension rises, Poirot observed. Someone will soon break character. Poirot adjusted his magnificent moustache with precision. Hercule Poirot is not deceived by such obvious theatre. The roles are assigned, but the performers are already slipping. More small revelations emerged. Langdon's will heavily favored Eleanor, yet Marcus had been promised a major promotion. Sophia possessed explosive notes for a story. Voss carried significant gambling debts. Raoul had placed a large wager against the team Langdon publicly supported. Every actor in this drama carries a secret, Poirot intoned. And Poirot, he sees behind every mask. The interviews concluded as the second half whistle sounded far below. Suspects dispersed to separate corners of the suite, performances still under close observation. Poirot arranged 3 crystal glasses symmetrically on the table, their cold surfaces catching firelight. Order and method will expose the rehearsals, the psychology. It is everything. Outside, the stadium lights blazed. Inside, and the real spotlight had only just begun to tighten. Every actor had taken their mark. But who played truth? Chapter 3. The first act. The private terrace of the FIFA VIP suite overlooked the blazing floodlit pitch like a high balcony in an ancient theatre. The World Cup final roared on below, but up here the true drama deepened. Laboratory results had arrived. Arsenic in the champagne, colorless, odorless, administered in the final minutes before halftime. The Art Deco lamps cast long shadows across polished mahogany and velvet, turning every face into a half-lit performer. Police still spoke of a quick, professional hit. Hercule Poirot saw only the first deliberate cracks in carefully constructed masks. In this glittering arena of power and prestige, greed had begun performing as grief. The curtain rises, no sound effect. Distant crowd roar, fading into the steady crackle of the suite's fireplace. Poirot moved among the suspects like a director adjusting blocking, probing deeper into motives and alibis. The air was thick with the scent of wilting hothouse lilies and lingering cigar smoke. Velvet curtains brushed softly against marble as he passed. Footsteps on parquet echoed like deliberate cues. The first act now commences, Poirot declared. We watch closely for the moment the mask slips. He began with Elena Langdon. She stood near the terrace doors, silk gown catching the chill draft, arms folded tightly. Poirot produced the scented letter found in her husband's pocket. She denied any affair, voice rising just enough to sound rehearsed. The grandfather clock chimed once, sharp and accusing. The mask slips. Did you catch it? Poirot asked you, the listener. Observe her hands. They no longer tremble. Relief is beginning to show beneath the performance. Next, he turned to Marcus Hale. The assistant sat at the mahogany desk, sorting documents with mechanical precision. Under gentle pressure, he admitted Langdon had privately told him the promised promotion was off, demotion instead. His tweed jacket suddenly seemed too rough, too honest against the luxury around him. Loyalty, performing as buried resentment, Poirot murmured. You see, but you do not observe the performance. Sophia Reyes was questioned on the terrace itself, cold night air sharpening every word. She finally confessed she had confronted Langdon about match-fixing documents during their last private talk. Her leather notebook lay open, pages crisp, and the wood smoke drifted between them from the indoor fire. The truth seeker sometimes masks personal ambition, Poirot noted. If you were hiding guilt, how would you perform innocence? Dr. Julian Voss stood by the fireplace, white coat still immaculate. Poirot asked about the sedatives he carried and the fact that arsenic could be disguised in small medicinal doses. Voss's calm cracked for half a second. He reached too quickly for his medical bag. The bitter scent of medicine escaped when he opened it. Expertise performing as control, Poirot observed. The spotlight of truth is tightening. Raoul Benoit leaned against the bar, velvet jacket luxurious, fresh cigar between his fingers. He laughed off suggestions of jealousy, but Poirot mentioned the massive bet Raoul had placed against the team Langdon had publicly backed. On the crystal glass in Raoul's hand trembled once, almost imperceptibly. Indignation, masking raw greed, Poirot whispered. This performance, it is rehearsed. Truth does not rehearse. The first real fracture came when Elena suddenly turned on Raoul in front of the others. You promised me it would end quietly, she said, voice breaking, not with grief, but with genuine fear. For the first time, her eyes filled with real tears. The room stilled. The chandelier tinkled overhead like faint applause. Poirot noted the shift. A mask has cracked. The performance of Perfect Widow is failing. Poirot then revealed a small but telling detail. The pearl earring found near the body belonged to Sophia Reyes. She admitted she had lost it during her private interview with Langdon, but insisted she left long before the poison was served. But her composure wavered. The first revelation, Poirot said softly. The facade begins to crumble. Now, a brief reflection on human masks. In every theater of crime, suspects wear masks because raw truth is too dangerous. We perform grief to hide relief, loyalty to conceal hatred, calm to disguise terror. Society scripts our roles. The wife must mourn, the assistant must serve, the journalist must seek justice, even when the heart wants something darker. I'm reminded of the case at Styles many years ago. A woman poisoned her husband with strychnine and performed innocence with such flawless calm that even I, Hercule Poirot, felt a moment of doubt. She rehearsed every gesture, the sigh, the trembling lip, the brave smile. But one small tell betrayed her. When the accusation came, she reached for her teacup with perfect steadiness. In a truly shocked woman spills. The body remembers what the mind tries to forget. In that affair, as here, pressure exposed the lie. The mask cracked not from evidence alone, but from understanding the psychology beneath. Deception is exhausting work. Truth requires no effort. The deceiver eventually forgets a line, hesitates a beat too long, lets real emotion leak through. Theatrical wisdom for you, mon ami? Watch the pauses. Watch the hands that should shake but do not. Watch the eyes that should weep but stay dry. In this World Cup betrayal, more masks will fracture soon. The first act has shown us the beginning. The suspects stood frozen, the roar of the match distant now. Poirot touched his magnificent moustache thoughtfully. The first act concluded. Some masks had cracked. Chapter 4. Rehearsed Lines. The VIP suite at FIFA Stadium felt smaller now, the Art Deco elegance turning claustrophobic under the weight of suspicion. The World Cup final had ended in jubilation far below, but up here, the celebration never reached. Champagne flutes stood abandoned, their contents gone flat and cold. The police had stepped back, allowing Hercule Poirot to tighten the screws on alibis and stories. Every word was now a line in a faltering script. The velvet curtains seemed heavier, the chandelier's soft tinkling more mocking. Rehearsed performances began to strain at the seams. The curtain rises. Sound effect, silk rustling, followed by the sharp pop of a champagne cork. Then silence. Poirot started with Elena Langdon. She sat on the edge of a velvet chair, a silk gown pooling around her like spilled ink. He asked again about the exact moment she left the box during halftime. Her first answer had placed her in the ladies' powder room. Now she hesitated, mentioning instead a quick call from the corridor. The fire crackled behind her, throwing warm light across her face. Rehearsed lines, Poirot said softly. They begin to stumble when pressed. Her hands smoothed the fabric of her dress too deliberately. Observe, mon ami. This suspect plays her role too perfectly, too smooth. Truth does not iron out every wrinkle. Marcus Hale was next. Poirot placed before him the timeline Marcus himself had written earlier. Two entries contradicted. One claimed he fetched documents from the outer office at 8:42. Another note in Langdon's desk diary showed Marcus still inside the suite at 8:45. The assistant's tweed jacket looked suddenly shabby against the polished mahogany. Sweat appeared at his temples despite the cool air drifting from the terrace. You watch with Poirot? No. See how this one's collar grows tight. Marcus stammered an explanation about checking his watch incorrectly. Poirot tilted his egg-shaped head. Too perfect, too rehearsed. Truth stumbles. Lies flow smooth. Sophia Reyes stood by the window, rain streaks on the glass behind her. Like tears, the room refused to shed. Poirot produced a small recorder, found tucked behind cushions. Her own voice questioning Langdon about match-fixing payments. She admitted carrying it, but insisted she turned it off before leaving. The leather of her notebook creaked as she gripped it harder. Wood smoke drifted past her face. The careful observer, and you are becoming careful, a mon ami, will notice the way she avoids the chair where the body lay. Her explanation grew longer, words piling like props hastily stacked. The tension rises, Poirot murmured. Someone will break character soon. Dr. Julian Voss remained near the fireplace, white coat now unbuttoned, revealing a silk tie loosened at the throat. Poirot asked about the small vial of sedative found in his medical bag. Same class of compound that could mask arsenic's taste. Voss insisted it was standard, prescribed only to players, but his fingers drummed once, twice, against the mantel, then stopped abruptly when he realized Poirot watched. The bitter scent of medicine lingered around him. Expertise faltering, Poirot noted. When the script is questioned, the actor hesitates. Raoul Benoit paced near the bar, velvet smoking jacket open, a fresh cigar unlit between his fingers. Poirot calmly revealed the betting slip. $1 million wagered against the team Langdon had championed in public statements. Raoul laughed, too loudly. The crystal glass he held clinked against the polished surface. Indignation, Poirot whispered, is a mask that cracks under laughter that rings false. Raoul's pacing slowed. He glanced at Elena, then away. Watch this performance carefully. Is it truth or theater? Poirot gathered small contradictions into one spotlight. Elna's corridor call had been to Raoul's private line. Yet Raoul swore he never re-entered the suite after their earlier argument. Marcus's timeline error aligned suspiciously with the moment Voss claimed he stepped out to check on a player. So Sophia's recorder captured background noise, the terrace door closing, at a time she insisted she was already gone. False performances exposed, Poirot said, making an expressive gesture with his small hands. Alibis are scripts. Scripts can be rewritten until the director reads between the lines. A new piece of evidence surfaced. Security footage stills showing a figure in a dark coat near the private entrance at 8:50, height and build consistent with Marcus Hale. He claimed he was fetching files. The footage showed no files in hand. The room grew quieter. The grandfather clock chimed once, marking the late hour. Eleanor sipped sweet liqueur from a crystal glass, lips trembling now. Marcus arranged papers with shaking fingers. Sophia closed her notebook with a snap. Voss stared into the fire. Raoul finally lit his cigar, a smoke curling like a confession unspoken. Poirot arranged 3 objects on the mahogany table: champagne glass, pearl earring, betting slip, symmetrically, precisely. Order and method, he said. They expose the rehearsals. The psychology reveals what words try to hide. The suspects avoided each other's eyes. The rain had stopped. Only the distant hum of post-match crowds remained. Poirot adjusted his magnificent moustache with precision. Rehearsed lines began to falter. Truth needed no rehearsal. Chapter 5. The Mask Slips. The FIFA VIP suite terrace hung open to the emptying stadium below. Floodlights now dimmed, leaving only cold night air and the faint echo of departing crowds. Inside, the Art Deco warmth felt brittle, as though the room itself sensed the breaking point. But a small glass vial, arsenic residue confirmed, had been discovered tucked inside Dr. Julian Voss's medical bag during a routine recheck. The marble floor gleamed coldly underfoot. Velvet curtains stirred in the draught from the terrace doors. Pressure had built to snapping point. Hercule Poirot turned the spotlight full force. Fear no longer performed as confidence. The curtain rises. Sound effect. Slow footsteps on parquet, fading into the sharp crackle of the dying fire. Poirot gathered all 5 suspects once more in the center of the suite, arranging them in a loose semicircle like actors called for notes after a disastrous dress rehearsal. The chandelier tinkled overhead, softer now, almost hesitant. The scent of wilting lilies mixed with wood smoke and the faint, bitter trace of medicine still clinging to Voss's coat. He began quietly with Elena Langdon. Madame, the performance of perfect grief has grown thin. We know of the private calls to Raoul Benoit. We know of the years of quiet control your husband exercised. Relief, not sorrow, is what your dry eyes truly express. Eleanor's shoulders sagged. For the first time, the silk of her gown seemed to weigh her down. Real tears, hot, sudden, spilled onto her cheeks. I wanted freedom, she whispered, but I did not kill him. The mask of composed widow slipped completely. Beneath it, raw exhaustion showed. Marcus Hale stood rigid, tweed jacket creased from hours of tension. Poirot turned to him next. You organized everything, mon ami. Files, schedules, even the champagne tray. Yet when accusation came, your hands remained steady. Too steady. A guilty man overcontrols his body. Marcus opened his mouth. I closed it. His fingers twitched once, then clenched. I hated him, he admitted hoarsely, for the demotion, for the years of being invisible. But poison, no. The performance of loyal assistant fractured. Resentment poured out, unfiltered. Sophia Reyes clutched her leather notebook like a shield. Poirot spoke gently. Mademoiselle, the recorder captured more than words. It captured the terrace door closing at 8:48, after you claimed to have left. And the pearl earring? Not lost in haste. Left deliberately, perhaps. as a marker of presence. Sophia's composure shattered. She dropped the notebook. Pages fanned across the parquet. "I wanted the story of my career," she said, voice breaking. "I threatened exposure, but murder, never." Real shame colored her cheeks, no longer masked by professional detachment. Doctor, in a Julian Voss, stood closest to the fire, white coat now rumpled, tie askew. Poirot produced the vial between two fingers like a conjurer's final trick. This sedative base could hide arsenic taste perfectly. You had access. You had motive. Debts mounting. Langdon threatening to expose your side prescriptions to players. Voss's face drained of color. He reached for the mantle to steady himself. His hand trembled violently. "I supplied sedatives," he choked. "For money." I knew he was unstable, but I did not poison the glass. The expert mask collapsed entirely. Tears, genuine, helpless, followed. An emotional breakdown unfolded before them all, shoulders shaking, breath ragged, no performance left to sustain. Raoul Benoit remained the last to crack. He laughed once, harsh, theatrical, then stopped when Poirot simply waited. "Monsieur, your $1 million bet against the team, your argument with Langdon hours earlier, your velvet jacket still carries the scent of the corridor where Elna called you at 8:50. Raoul's cigar fell from nerveless fingers, ash scattering on marble. "I wanted him gone from power," he rasped, "but I did not kill him. I swear it." For the first time, the rival's bluster vanished. Naked fear stared out. Poirot stepped forward, small hands making a single expressive gesture that silenced the room. Now came the director's method, applied in full to the breaking point, the performance. Each of you wept, protested, explained, shoulders appropriately slumped, voices rising and falling in classic patterns of innocence or outrage. The tell, yet observe. The tears came only after accusation pressed too hard. Before that moment, eyes remained dry, our hands too controlled, breathing too even. Genuine shock does not wait for permission to appear. The psychology. I recall the case of the Orient Express. A man performed perfect cooperation, helpfulness, even sorrow, until the final accusation. Then the mask fell, revealing calculated hatred beneath rehearsed charm. He had poisoned slowly, staying close to control the narrative. But psychology betrayed him. Overhelpfulness is often a screen for guilt. The body cannot lie forever. When pressure mounts, the mask slips in tiny, fatal ways. The steady hand that should shake, the dry eye that should weep. Here, too, the same principle applies. The truth. None of you administered the fatal dose alone. But one among you arranged every detail. The timing, the glass, the distraction. Marcus Hale, and you played the most convincing part of all. The efficient shadow. Always helpful, always near. Yet when the body was discovered, you reached for documents with perfect calm while others froze. A man in true shock does not sort papers. You poisoned the champagne during the halftime chaos, knowing the roar would cover the act. Promotion and revenge were your motives. The mask has fallen. Beneath it, the true face at last. Marcus staggered back one step. No denial came, only silence. The room held its breath. The fire popped once, softly. Outside, the stadium lights extinguished one by one. Poirot adjusted his magnificent moustache with quiet satisfaction. The mask had fallen. Beneath it, the true face emerged. Chapter 6. Behind the curtain. The FIFA VIP suite now felt like the backstage of a grand theater after the audience has left. Props scattered, Lights lowered, secrets no longer hidden by bright spotlights. The stadium outside lay silent, only the occasional distant horn from departing cars breaking the night. Inside, the Art Deco mirrors reflected tired faces and half-empty crystal glasses. The fire had burned low, casting long shadows across polished mahogany and velvet. Hercule Poirot drew back the final curtains, revealing the hidden connections and motives that had woven this drama from the start. Behind every elegant performance lay a private wound. The curtain rises, sound effect, slow swish of heavy velvet curtains, followed by the soft, dying crackle of embers. Poirot began with Elena Langdon. When she stood near the terrace doors, arms wrapped around herself against the chill. "Madame," he said gently, "your husband's control was not merely professional. For years you endured quiet cruelty, public smiles, private humiliations. The letter in his pocket was not a love note. It was your plea for release, written but never sent." Eleanor's silk gown rustled as she nodded once, slowly. Real tears came again, but this time without performance. "I wanted him gone from my life," she whispered, "not from this world." Behind her mask of grieving widow lay simple, exhausted relief. Marcus Hale sat at the mahogany desk, head bowed, tweed jacket discarded on the chair beside him. Poirot placed before him a forged memo, Langdon's signature imitated with care. "You prepared his downfall, long before the poison. A demotion was the final insult after years of invisible labor. You arranged the champagne tray yourself that night." Marcus looked up, eyes hollow. "He promised me everything," he said hoarsely, then took it back. "I wanted justice." The loyal assistant's mask had hidden deep, burning ambition. Sophia Reyes leaned against the bar, leather notebook forgotten on the floor. Poirot produced a printed email chain, her correspondence with an anonymous source inside FIFA. "You did not merely report on match fixing, you fed information to Langdon's rivals to force his hand, hoping for the scoop of the decade." Sophia closed her eyes. "I thought exposure would clean the sport," she murmured. "But I became part of the game." Behind the truth-seeker's role lay calculated opportunism. Dr. Julian Voss stood by the fireplace, white coat unbuttoned, and hands clasped tightly. Poirot revealed bank records, large transfers from Raoul Benoit to Voss over 18 months. Sedatives for players became a side business. When Langdon discovered the scheme and threatened to report you, the debt became unbearable. Voss's voice cracked. "I only supplied the compound to calm nerves. I never meant." He trailed off. The physician's mask of detached expertise had concealed desperation and complicity. Raoul Benoit remained near the window, velvet smoking jacket open, unlit cigar crushed in his fist. Poirot spoke last to him. "Your $1 million bet was not mere gambling. It was revenge. Langdon had blocked your return to power in FIFA for years. You and Voss discussed solutions in coded messages. You needed him removed." Raoul turned, face ashen. "I hated the man," he admitted. "But murder? And that was never the plan." Behind the rival's bluster lay wounded pride and thwarted ambition. Poirot stepped to the center. Now we see the backstage. Eleanor sought escape. Marcus sought recognition. Sophia sought fame. Voss sought survival. Raoul sought dominance. Each thread connected, yet only one hand pulled the fatal string. The room held its breath. The grandfather clock chimed once, soft and final. A brief reflection on hidden motives. In the theater of crime, the most dangerous secrets hide behind the curtain of everyday roles. Humans conceal motives because truth threatens everything: status, love, security, self-image. We wear masks not merely to deceive others, but to deceive ourselves. Greed performs as ambition, fear as caution, hatred as justice. I recall the ABC murders. A killer staged random deaths to mask one personal vendetta. He created an elaborate alphabetical pattern, letters sent to Poirot himself, all to disguise obsession with a single victim. The performance was brilliant, over-elaborate, almost artistic. Yet psychology betrayed him. The timing of each crime grew slightly frantic, the letters too pleased with their own cleverness. The mind, when burdened by hidden motive, cannot sustain perfect order forever. It slips in small ways, extra flourish, unnecessary risk. Here too, the connections were too neat at first glance, yet pressure revealed the frayed edges. Universal truth: every secret is born of an unmet need. Pull the curtain, and the actor stands unprepared, blinking in the light. Motive is never abstract. It is always personal, always painful. Theatrical wisdom: non mon ami. Never trust the polished surface. Look behind. There you find the hand that moved the prop and the heart that needed it moved. The suspects stood in silence, no longer performing, only enduring. The fire popped once, sending a small spark up the chimney. Poirot arranged a single champagne glass, the pearl earring, and the betting slip in perfect symmetry on the table. Behind every curtain, a secret, he said quietly. Behind every secret, a motive. Chapter 7. The Final Act. The FIFA VIP suite had become the bare stage at last. Floodlights outside were extinguished. Only the soft Art Deco lamps and the dying fire provided illumination. The velvet curtains were drawn fully open to the empty terrace, letting cold night air drift across marble and mahogany. The 5 suspects stood in a loose circle, no longer able to retreat behind furniture or props. Crystal glasses stood untouched, champagne long gone flat. Hercule Poirot positioned himself at the center, small but commanding, like a director calling the cast for the final curtain speech. Every performance had been noted, every slip catalogued. Now truth would take its bow. The curtain rises. Sound effect. The single, slow chime of the grandfather clock. Then complete silence. Poirot raised one small hand. The room stilled instantly. Mesdames et messieurs, he began, voice calm yet carrying to every corner. You have each performed for Hercule Poirot. Some with fragments of truth, others with brilliant, desperate theatre. Now the house lights dim. Let us review the performances one final time. He turned first to Elena Langdon. Madame, and you played the grieving widow with elegance. The silk gown, the soft dabbing of dry eyes, the brave tremble of the lip, technically flawless. But grief does not arrive on cue. Your tears came only when accusation pressed too hard. Beneath the performance lay relief, relief from years of quiet control. You did not kill, but you did not mourn. Eleanor bowed her head once, silk rustling faintly. No protest came. Poirot moved to Sophia Reyes. Mademoiselle, you performed the innocent journalist, notebook in hand, question sharp and professional. Yet innocent observers do not hide recorders behind cushions. They do not lose pearl earrings as markers of secret presence. Your ambition for the story masked something darker. Complicity in pressure, not murder. The mask of objectivity slipped long ago. Sophia closed her eyes, and the leather notebook remained on the floor where it had fallen earlier. Next, Dr. Julian Voss. Doctor, you gave the performance of detached expertise, white coat crisp, voice measured, hands steady. But expertise does not supply sedatives for profit while denying access to poison. Your debt to Raoul Benoit, your fear of exposure, these were the true directors of your role. You did not pour the arsenic, but you prepared the stage for it. Voss's shoulders slumped. The white coat seemed suddenly too large. Raoul Benoit stood last among the supporting players. Monsieur, you played the outraged rival with magnificent volume. The pacing, the cigar, the laugh that rang too loud, pure theatre. Yet indignation does not place million-dollar bets against the man one claims to respect. Your wounded pride, your blocked return to power, these motives burned behind the bluster. You discussed solutions with Voss. You did not kill, but you wished for it. Raoul exhaled once, sharply. The crushed cigar fell to the marble with a soft click. Poirot paused, letting silence stretch. Then he turned slowly to Marcus Hale. And so we come to our leading performer. Marcus stood rigid, tweed jacket creased, face pale under the lamplight. You, Marcus Hale, gave the most convincing performance of all. The efficient assistant, always near, always helpful, always calm. You organized the champagne tray during halftime chaos. You fetched documents no one needed. When the body was discovered, you reached for papers with perfect composure, while others froze in shock. A man truly surprised does not sort files. His hands shake, his breath catches, and yours did not. Poirot stepped closer, green eyes gleaming. The performance. You wept appropriately later, protested loyalty, offered every assistance, shoulders slumped on cue, voice steady when it should have broken. The tell. But in that first moment, when the body was found, your hands remained rock steady. No tremor, no widened eyes beyond what was rehearsed. The body cannot lie about shock. The psychology. I am reminded of the case on the Nile. A man performed perfect helpfulness, staying close to every development, masking hatred with service. He poisoned slowly, controlling the narrative. But psychology betrayed him. Over-helpfulness is often the screen for guilt. The actor who directs too much reveals he fears being directed. Here, the same principle. You over-controlled every gesture. Or the truth. You poisoned the champagne, knowing the crowd's roar would cover the act. Motive? The promised promotion withdrawn. Years of being invisible while Langdon took credit. Revenge dressed as justice. You arranged every detail, the glass, the timing, the distraction. The mask has fallen completely. Marcus staggered back one step. His mouth opened, closed. No sound emerged at first. Then, very quietly, he took everything from me. Poirot made a single, gentle gesture with both small hands. The performance is over. The curtain falls. The truth, she takes her bow. Silence held for several heartbeats. The fire gave one last soft pop. Outside, the first hint of dawn grayed the terrace. The cast stood revealed. No masks, no scripts, only human faces. Eleanor looked suddenly younger. Sophia bent to retrieve her notebook with shaking hands. Voss stared at the floor. Raoul exhaled as though a weight had lifted. Marcus remained motionless, eyes fixed on nothing. Poirot adjusted his magnificent moustache with quiet precision. The final act concluded. Only truth survived the curtain call. Chapter 8. Curtain Call. The FIFA VIP suite stood almost empty now, its Art Deco grandeur suddenly stark, without the weight of performance. The velvet curtains hung motionless. The crystal chandelier gave only faint, tired light. Outside, the first pale dawn crept across the empty stadium seats, turning floodlights into dull metal ghosts. Marcus Hale had been led away in quiet handcuffs, his tweed jacket draped over one arm like a discarded costume. The remaining four suspects lingered in the room, no longer actors, only people stripped bare by truth. Justice had begun its slow, unmethodical work. No applause followed this performance, only the soft echo of consequences. The curtain rises one final time. Sound effect. Distant doors closing softly, followed by the slow fade of rain on terrace windows. Eleanor Langdon sat alone on the edge of a velvet chair, silk gown creased from hours of tension. She no longer dabbed at dry eyes. Real exhaustion marked her face, but also something lighter, relief that had finally found its shape. She looked toward the terrace where the night air still carried the faint scent of lilies long past their prime. I spent years performing the perfect wife, she said quietly, voice free of rehearsal. Now I can simply be. Poirot inclined his head. The mask is heavy, madame. When it falls, breathing becomes possible again. She rose slowly, smoothing the silk one last time. Not as performance, but as habit breaking. She would leave New York soon, travel quietly, perhaps find a small house near the sea where no one expected grief or grace. Sophia Reyes knelt to gather the scattered pages of her notebook from the parquet floor. Her hands moved without hurry now, no longer clutching for control. The leather cover was scuffed, one corner bent. She stood, meeting Poirot's gaze directly for the first time. I thought truth was something I chased, she said. I never realized I was running from it. She promised to rewrite her story, not the sensational expose she had planned, but a measured account of corruption, complicity, and consequence. No more hiding behind the byline, she added. Poirot's green eyes gleamed with quiet approval. Truth does not need embellishment. To Mademoiselle, it stands best when plain. Dr. Julian Voss removed his white coat, folding it carefully over the back of a chair. The fabric no longer carried the crisp authority it once had. It looked merely ordinary. He spoke of repaying debts, not only the financial ones to Raoul Benoit, but the ethical ones to the players he had quietly supplied. I told myself it was medicine, he murmured. It was never only that. He would face review by the medical board, perhaps suspension, but he accepted it without protest. For the first time, his hands remained open, no longer clenched in defense. I can start again, he said, almost surprised by the possibility. Smaller, cleaner. Raoul Benoit stood by the bar, velvet smoking jacket unbuttoned, collar loose. The cigar was gone. He held only a glass of water now, untouched. He looked older in the dawn light, pride softened by defeat. I built my life on being the man who never lost, he said. Turns out, I lost long before tonight. He would retire from public life in football. No more bets, no more rivalries. A quiet consultancy, perhaps, far from stadium lights. He glanced at Elena, an apology unspoken but understood. She nodded once. The old wounds between them would not heal overnight, but they no longer needed to bleed. Poirot moved among them, small and precise, touching his magnificent moustache thoughtfully. He arranged the few remaining objects on the mahogany table. The empty champagne glass, the pearl earring, the betting slip, in perfect symmetry, one last time. Order and method, he said softly, restore themselves when masks are set aside. The psychology had done its work. Truth had stripped away illusion. What remained were not villains or heroes, only humans, flawed and capable of change. The police returned briefly to collect final statements. Marcus's confession had been brief, almost mechanical. The demotion had been the final insult after years of erasure. He had slipped the arsenic into the class during the halftime chaos, knowing the roar would swallow any sound. Revenge had worn the mask of efficiency until it could wear it no longer. As the others prepared to leave, Poirot addressed them once more. You have all performed. Some roles were chosen, some forced upon you. Now the theatre empties. What you carry forward is yours alone. No script, no audience, only the small, honest acts of each day. Eleanor paused at the door, turning back. Thank you, Monsieur Poirot, not for seeing what we tried so hard to hide. The others murmured agreement, quiet and genuine. One by one they departed, footsteps fading along the corridor, doors closing softly behind them. The suite grew still. The fire had burned to embers. Only a faint warmth remained. Dawn light strengthened, touching polished chrome and geometric patterns with pale gold. Poirot stood alone for a moment, green eyes sweeping the room. The stage had been reset by truth. No curtain would rise here again. He smoothed an imaginary wrinkle from his sleeve. Chapter 9. After the show. The FIFA stadium had emptied completely. Dawn had given way to bright morning light that poured across the deserted stands, turning silver railings into soft gold. Inside the VIP suite, the last traces of the night's drama had been cleared away. The velvet curtains were drawn back to let in fresh air. The crystal chandelier had been switched off, leaving only natural light to touch the polished mahogany and marble. The fire was cold ash now. No more champagne glasses stood on the table. No more cigar smoke lingered in the corners. The theatre had closed for the season. What remained were the quiet transformations of those who had once performed upon its stage. The curtain rises for the final gentle epilogue. Sound effect, distant city traffic rising softly, then fading into the gentle rustle of wind through open terrace doors. Eleanor Langdon had already left New York. She had taken only a small suitcase and the few personal items that carried no memory of Victor's control. Friends reported she had rented a modest villa on the Amalfi coast, white stone, a bougainvillea spilling over walls, the sea always in view. She walked barefoot on warm tiles each morning, drank strong continental coffee without anyone watching her expression. The silk gowns were packed away. She wore simple linen now. When she spoke of her late husband, her voice held neither grief nor bitterness, only the calm of someone who had finally stepped out of a long, exhausting role. I am learning to exist without an audience, she wrote in a brief note to Poirot. It feels like breathing for the first time. Sophia Reyes returned to her small apartment in Brooklyn. The leather notebook, once her shield, now sat open on her desk. Not for scandal, but for honest drafts. Her next article appeared in a respected outlet. No sensational headlines, no hidden recorders, only careful facts about FIFA's internal pressures and the human cost of ambition. She included her own part in the story, small, unflinching. Colleagues noticed the change. She asked harder questions of herself than of others now. Late at night, she sometimes stared at the pearl earring she had reclaimed from evidence, turning it in her fingers. It no longer felt like a prop. It felt like a reminder that truth begins where performance ends. Dr. Julian Voss faced the medical board review with quiet dignity. Suspension came as expected, but he did not fight it. Instead, he began working at a free clinic in Queens. Basic care, no side prescriptions, no hidden accounts. His white coat hung neatly in a narrow locker. He wore plain scrubs now. Patients knew him only as Dr. Julian, a man who listened longer than he spoke. On the gambling debts were being repaid slowly, honestly. When Poirot sent a short message of inquiry, Voss replied simply, "I'm learning that healing starts with myself." His hands, once too steady under pressure, now trembled slightly when he poured tea for elderly patients. But the tremor was honest, and therefore bearable. Raoul Benoit sold his Manhattan penthouse and moved to a quiet townhouse in Montreal. No more velvet smoking jackets. He wore heavy wool sweaters against the northern cold. He took up a modest role consulting for youth academies, teaching footwork, not power plays. The $1 million bet had been voided after the scandal. The money returned to charity. He no longer paced rooms in outrage. Instead, he walked slowly along frozen river paths, hands in pockets, thinking. He wrote Eleanor once a short letter of regret, no excuses. She answered with a single line. We were both playing parts we no longer needed. The old rivalry dissolved like smoke. Poirot remained in the suite a little longer than the others. He arranged the final objects with care. One empty champagne flute. The pearl earring now returned to Sophia. The betting slip marked evidence closed. He placed them in perfect symmetry on the mahogany table, then stepped back. The room felt lighter, as though the weight of deception had lifted with the departing cast. Now, the director's method applied to the aftermath. The performance. Each has begun a new role, not rehearsed, not masked. Eleanor walks freely. Sophia writes plainly. Voss heals humbly. Raoul teaches quietly. The tell. No more dry eyes when emotion should show. No more steady hands when they should tremble. And the body moves naturally now. Small hesitations, genuine smiles, unpolished gestures. The psychology. I recall the affair of cards on the table. 4 players, each hiding motive behind perfect facades. When the truth emerged, the masks fell, and something unexpected followed. Not ruin, but possibility. One found peace in obscurity, another rebuilt with honesty. Revelation does not always destroy. It clears space for authenticity. Here too. The theater of betrayal has emptied, yet the lessons remain. Humans are not fixed in their roles. When the spotlight of truth shines without mercy, it also illuminates the path forward. The truth. Betrayal exposed does not end lives. It ends performances. What grows afterward is smaller, slower, truer. You see it now, Non. The curtain falls, but the stage is never truly empty. Poirot touched his magnificent moustache one last time. He looked out over the quiet stadium, where groundskeepers were already sweeping away the confetti of victory. The drama had concluded. Ordinary days would follow. The theater emptied, but the lessons lingered. Chapter 10. Poirot reviews the performance. Hercule Poirot sat in the quiet comfort of his small Belgian apartment in Brussels, far from the roar of New York stadiums. Late afternoon light slanted through tall windows onto the Art Deco furniture. Polished mahogany, geometric chrome accents, a single crystal vase holding fresh white lilies. A pot of tisane steamed gently on the low table beside him, its herbal scent clean and soothing. The fire in the grate burned low and steady, casting warm flickers across her velvet cushions and the neat row of books on the shelf. Outside, a soft rain tapped against the glass like polite applause long after the curtain had fallen. Poirot sipped slowly, the hot liquid comforting on his tongue. A thin newspaper lay open beside him, headlines already fading from FIFA president poisoned to smaller columns about convictions and quiet retirements. The theater of crime had emptied. Now came reflection. He touched his magnificent moustache thoughtfully, green eyes distant yet sharp. Marcus Hale had received a life sentence, quiet acceptance in court, no final dramatic outburst. Eleanor Langdon had vanished into private life along the Italian coast, sending only a brief, grateful card. Sophia Reyes published her measured account of FIFA's shadows, earning quiet respect rather than scandalous fame. Dr. Voss worked long hours at the free clinic, her hands no longer steady from rehearsal, but from genuine care. Raoul Benoit coached young players in Montreal, his voice softer, his lessons about discipline rather than dominance. Each had stepped off the stage and into ordinary days. Poirot approved. Truth did not always destroy. Sometimes it simply cleared space. Why, he wondered, do humans insist on performance when truth would serve better? The answer lay deep in the little grey cells. Fear drives the first mask, fear of judgment, of loss, of being seen as weak or unworthy. Greed follows, dressing itself as ambition or justice. Love twists into possession and wears indifference as disguise. Pride, perhaps the heaviest mask of all, refuses to admit fault even when the body screams it. Society applauds the polished act. The grieving widow, the loyal assistant, the impartial journalist, or the concerned physician, the outraged rival. We learn early that raw feeling invites pain. Rehearsal promises safety, yet the body knows no script. Guilt betrays in tiny ways, the hand too steady when it should tremble, the eye too dry when tears are expected, the breath held too long when shock should steal it. The actor tires, the mask slips. Truth, patient and persistent, waits for the moment of fatigue. I am reminded of the murder of Roger Ackroyd. A man of charms and apparent trustworthiness narrated the entire affair, helped the investigation, offered sympathy, stayed close to every development. He performed innocence so convincingly that even I, Hercule Poirot, felt a flicker of doubt. He detailed alibis with precision, smiled at the right moments, wept when grief was called for. But psychology revealed the lie. Over-elaboration in his accounts, a careful avoidance of genuine emotion, the steady hand that never faltered, even when accusation drew near. A truly innocent man stumbles in shock. The guilty one rehearses until the stumble is forbidden. In the end, the mask shattered, not from fingerprints or poison traces alone, but from the simple truth that deception exhausts the soul. The body cannot sustain the lie forever. Here, in this World Cup betrayal, the same principle held. Marcus Hale controlled every gesture until the spotlight burned too brightly. Then the steady hand, the dry eye, the calm sorting of papers, while others froze, the tells accumulated until the performance collapsed under its own weight. The psychology of revelation fascinates me still. When the curtain falls, and something unexpected often follows, not always ruin, sometimes release. Humans are not fixed statues. They are actors capable of new roles when the old script is torn away. Elna found freedom in solitude. Sophia discovered integrity in plain words. Voss rebuilt trust through humble work. Raoul traded pride for quiet contribution. Even Marcus, in his cell, may one day confront the man behind the mask. Truth triumphs over performance because it is lighter to carry. Lies demand constant energy. Rehearsal, adjustment, defense. Truth requires only existence. Order and method, when applied without sentiment, expose the machinery of deception. The little gray cells do not judge, they observe. And in observation lies the path to understanding. Society will always demand performances. We wear them at work, in love, in grief, but the theater of crime teaches a deeper lesson. No mask survives the full light forever. The pauses between words, the gestures that do not match the script, the silences that speak louder than protest, these are where authenticity hides. Watch them, mon ami. Watch the hands that should shake but do not. Watch the eyes that should weep but stay dry. There, in the small betrayals of the body, truth waits patiently for its entrance. Poirot set the tisane cup down with precision. Rain continued outside, gentle now, washing the city clean. The fire popped once, softly. He smiled, a small, satisfied curve beneath the magnificent moustache. Until the next theater of crime, mes amis, he murmured to the empty room. Poirot will be watching.